Speaking of prices, we're going to talk about money. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. And out of all these alternative truths, this is the most interesting thing that is true for both heaven and earthly truth. That is true for both heaven and earth. This one is frighteningly simple. It is not complicated at all, unless your heart is set on something or anything earthly. It is not complicated at all either. When we assess ourselves, we tend to be liberal with mercy in the assessment. Instead of assessing whether God we serve, we should first determine what it is to serve. What occupies our time? If time is money, and time is love too. So what are your concerns? What are your insurances, your investments, your bread, clothing, and shelter? Do you worry about money? Or conversely, do you concern yourself with serving God? This is a sticky question with a million possibilities and even semantics of what it means to the answerer. Worry and concern are even sticky distinctions. I think the characteristics of a divided servitude deserves our attention. It seems both of our loves for both God and mammon can be minimized so they don't seem obvious to ourselves or to others. Only the outcomes are hauntingly similar and do not rule the other out. Oh, I admit, I really love blank, and blank, I like it okay too. So what's difficult is to actually admit that you hate any of the things that you can kind of like or even love. No one really wants to commit to hating God, but unfortunately, when faced with the choice is not which to love more. For everybody, even those who know that they love money, know that it is scary and weird to admit that you hate God. Hate God and love the other. Hate God and love, put it up on the screen, B. But the hard choice is even to admit hating money because it's so darn useful. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want more of it. It's just a tool, someone might say. But when pressed, who would even say, yeah, I hate money? Anyone who has used it knows that it can buy good feelings. And in poverty, you often long for it. In riches, you use it for advancing yourself. Rich or poor, it takes a real weird guy to say, I hate money. And as for me, I'm still working on letting the feeling meet the saying of it. Aim for the heavenly and the earthly will be there. Matthew 6:3. If we aim for earthly, we'll always get less than you aim for, and it never rises high enough to include the heavenly things. Not judging can easily be tied to the imagery of loving our enemy. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Anchored in another earth-friendly direct comparison, Jesus shows that some, and as we've seen, certainly not all, earthly truths are directly correlated to heavenly truths. And this makes us comfortable that at least some of the earthly knowledge that we have is applicable to our longing for the kingdom. Interestingly, the marketplace seems more relative to the earth, but the farm more relative to heaven. A few other things. Don't want to leave this section without mentioning that Jesus brought up that was kind of weird, kind of off the beaten path, kind of seem to be against the way that we think, is the intentions of the giver, how they affect reward. In teaching about humility, Christ appealed to the pride within ourselves. Blessed is not something to attain to. It's the alternative truths that he presented to the life of the hearts of those who by this world have been pressed down. And he starts out by the humble heart. He says, blessed are those who are persecuted. James also said this. Peter and Paul commend those who are suffering, and all the apostles suffer persecution. So other blesseds could be also added. Yeah, last will be first, first will be last. Move a mountain with faith, or even wither a fig tree. Why wasn't the question anymore. It became if. And at the wedding feast, the parables of the wedding feast, who are you in the story? And we could talk about parables and how they're stories and how they're incalculable with legal terminology. And so eventually we're going to have to go and interpret some of these things for ourselves. So let's see what we can do.